The stars looked different from this far out. Captain John Carter stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant, watching the unfamiliar patterns through the main view screen. His weathered face showed both pride and worry. After 50 years of space exploration, humans were finally meeting their galactic neighbors. "Captain, we're approaching the coordinates," said Lisa Morgan, her fingers moving across the communications panel. At 32, she was the youngest senior officer on board, chosen for her gift with languages and patterns. Carter nodded. "Slow to half speed. Let's not look too eager." The Defiant was humanity's finest ship. Built in the orbital shipyards, above Mars, it combined Earth's best technology with a simple mission: say hello to the stars. The ship carried no colony equipment, no invasion force, just 120 crew members trained to make a good first impression. "Sensors picking up something ahead," said Diane Powell from the science station. Her dark eyes narrowed as she studied her screens. Multiple objects, large, moving in formation. Security Chief Alan West moved to stand beside the captain. His hand rested near his sidearm out of habit. "The Council sent more ships than we expected." For decades, Earth's deep space listening posts had picked up transmissions from what they called the Galactic Council. 27 different species working together in space. The translators had finally broken enough of their language to arrange this meeting. "Getting visual now," Powell announced. The main screen changed to show a cluster of ships ahead. They were not the sleek diplomatic vessels they had expected. These were warships, angular, scarred, and bristling with weapons. "Those aren't Council. Diplomatic ships," West said, his voice low. Carter leaned forward. "Morgan, open all channels, standard greeting package." Morgan sent the carefully prepared message. Simple mathematical sequences followed by basic language primers and images of peaceful human activity. The message they had spent years crafting to say, "We come as friends." The response came as a blinding flash of energy that rocked the ship. "Direct hit to forward shields," West shouted as red warning lights flooded the bridge. "Shield capacity at 80%. Carter grabbed his command chair as another blast hit them. "Evasive maneuvers. Morgan, keep broadcasting our peaceful intentions." On the screen, the alien ships moved with practiced precision, surrounding the Defiant. Now they could see the markings on the hulls, jagged symbols that matched nothing in their language database. "Captain," Powell called over the alarms, "I've identified them from the partial Council records we intercepted. They're Vrexians, an outer rim species known for territorial expansion." Another hit rocked the ship. A console exploded behind them, sending a crew member flying. "Shields at 40%, West reported. They're targeting our engines." Carter made a quick decision. Return fire, defensive patterns only. Target their weapons systems. The Defiant's point defense lasers fired, striking the nearest Vrexian ship. The hit seemed to surprise the attackers, who hadn't expected such accuracy from a supposedly primitive species. "They're regrouping," West said, reading energy buildup in their lead vessel. What happened next occurred in terrible slow motion. A brilliant beam of energy lanced from the Vrexian flagship, cutting through the Defiant's weakened shields like paper. The impact tore through 3 decks, venting atmosphere and crew into space. "Hull breach on decks 4 through 6. Morgan shouted over the screams and alarms. "Life support failing in the forward sections." Carter watched his display as crew life signs winked out one by one. 30, dead in an instant. Then 40. Then 50. "Engineering reports critical damage to main power," West said, blood running from a cut on his forehead. "Shields are gone." Powell looked up from her station, her face illuminated by emergency lighting. "Captain, they're preparing to fire again. The energy readings, it's enough to destroy us completely." Carter stood amidst the smoke and chaos of his ruined bridge. Half his crew was dead or dying. First contact had become first combat, and they were losing. In that moment, he made the decision that would change humanity's place among the stars forever. "All remaining power to weapons," he said quietly. "Target their command vessel." West looked at him. "Sir, the prototype?" Carter nodded. "The particle, beam, full power." The particle beam weapon had been installed as a last resort, a classified technology developed after Earth's last war, but never used in combat. It drew power directly from the ship's fusion core, bypassing safety protocols. Targeting their command ship, West confirmed, entering the codes that armed the weapon. Powell spoke without looking up from her readings. If we fire at full power, it will drain our remaining energy. We won't have enough to escape or call for help. We won't need to escape if we're dead, Carter said. Fire. The Defiant shuddered as power drained from every system. The lights dimmed, life support faltered, and for a moment, the bridge crew thought they had failed. Then a brilliant white beam lanced out from the Defiant, cutting through space to strike the Vrexian flagship. For a second, nothing happened. Then the enemy ship's hull began to glow where the beam touched it. The glow spread, brightened, and suddenly the Vrexian vessel erupted in a massive explosion that engulfed two nearby ships. The shockwave hit the Defiant, pushing the already crippled ship tumbling through space. Emergency systems failed one by one. 3 enemy ships destroyed, the rest are pulling back, West reported, his voice hoarse from the smoke. Morgan looked up from her station. Captain, I'm picking up transmissions between their remaining ships and somewhere else. They're reporting to someone. Carter nodded grimly. They're telling their version of what happened here. He looked around at his broken ship and surviving crew. Restore whatever power we can. We need to get home. As the Defiant limped away, its hull breached and scorched, the surviving Vrexian ships made no attempt to pursue. They had come expecting easy prey and found something else entirely. In the ship's damaged communications room, Carter recorded their final message to Earth. They had been ambushed, they had defended themselves, and they were returning home with proof of hostile intent. The message was set to broadcast continuously in case the ship didn't make it. The Vrexians, meanwhile, sent their own message to the Galactic Council. Humans were violent, unpredictable barbarians who had employed weapons of mass destruction during what was meant to be a peaceful first contact. The humans had drawn first blood, they claimed. The Vrexians conveniently omitted mention of who fired first. As the damaged Defiant struggled toward Earth, neither Captain Carter nor his surviving crew realized that their actions had not just saved their ship, they had forever changed how humanity would be seen among the stars. 6 months after the attack on the Defiant, Vice Admiral Susan Kelly walked slowly across the stage of the United Earth Parliament. The large chamber was completely silent. 500 elected officials from every corner of Earth watched as she approached the podium. Behind her, a massive screen showed the damaged hull of the Defiant now resting in the orbital shipyards above Earth. Ladies and gentlemen of Parliament, Kelly began, her voice firm despite her 60 years. I present to you the evidence recovered from the Defiant's black box. The screen changed to show the attack from the ship's external cameras, the unprovoked firing, the desperate defense, the final powerful blast that saved the surviving crew. When the recording ended, angry murmurs filled the room. Kelly waited for silence before continuing. Captain Carter and 47 of his crew managed to bring the Defiant home. 73 others did not. They died in an unprovoked attack during what was meant to be a peaceful first contact. A woman in the front row stood up. What do the Vrexians say about this? We have intercepted their communications to the Galactic Council, Kelly replied. They claim we attacked them without cause. They have painted us as violent savages who cannot be trusted. Shouts of anger filled the room. Someone called for war. Someone else demanded isolation, to pull back from space exploration entirely. Kelly raised her hand. I have a different proposal. The room quieted. Humanity will not cower in fear. We will not hide behind our borders, and we will not apologize for defending ourselves. She pressed a button, and the screen showed a new image, plans for a fleet of ships. I propose Operation Clear Skies. We will send our best ships and our finest diplomats directly to the Galactic Council. We will present our evidence and demand justice. The Parliament erupted in debate. Some feared sending more ships would only lead to more deaths. Others worried the entire council might be hostile like the Vrexians. But after 3 days of argument, They voted. Operation Clear Skies was approved. In the months that followed, Earth prepared for its second attempt at galactic diplomacy. This time, they would not go unprepared. Captain Frank Moore stood in the massive construction bay, watching workers finish the USS Vindicator. At 50 years old, Moore had fought in Earth's last war. He understood battle, but respected peace. His short gray hair and steady gaze gave him an air of calm authority. "She's a beautiful ship," said a voice behind him. Moore turned to see Ambassador Nicole Harris approaching. In her 40s, Harris had negotiated the unified Earth peace accords that ended the last global conflict. Her dark hair was pulled back, in a simple style, and she wore the blue uniform of the diplomatic corps. "Beautiful, yes," Moore agreed. "And powerful. 7 times the firepower of the Defiant and shields that can withstand 10 times the punishment." Harris looked troubled. "I hope we won't need either." "So do I," Moore said honestly. "But if we do, we'll be ready." They walked together along the gantry, looking down at the fleet being prepared. 5 warships would escort the diplomatic vessel. All were being fitted with special transparent armor panels that would leave the battle damage from previous conflicts visible. A silent testimony to humanity's past struggles. "An interesting choice," Harris said, pointing to the scarred panels. "Most would try to look more impressive by hiding their wounds." Moore nodded. "Admiral Kelly's idea. She says we should wear our history openly. It shows we fought before and survived." In a nearby briefing room, the diplomatic team gathered for their final preparation. Peter Jones, a quiet man with a gift for analysis, reviewed data on known council species. Olivia Miller, an expert in cultural exchange, studied alien communication patterns. Commander Eric Sullivan, the team's military liaison, examined defensive protocols. Admiral Kelly entered the room and everyone stood. "Be seated," she said. "We have new information." She activated a holographic display showing the Galactic Council's headquarters, a massive ring-shaped station orbiting a blue gas giant. "This is where you're headed. Over 50 species have representatives there, but only 27 have full council membership." Sullivan leaned forward. "Security?" "Extensive," Kelly replied. "Automated defense systems, patrol ships, and armed guards from various species. They're not taking any chances with newcomers." "Can't blame them," Jones said. "They think we're violent savages." Miller looked thoughtful. "We should study their laws before we arrive. If they have a legal system, we can use it to demand a fair hearing." Harris nodded. "Good idea. We'll approach this from every angle: legal, diplomatic, and if necessary, military." 2 weeks later, the fleet was ready to depart. Thousands gathered to watch the ships leave Earth orbit. On the bridge of the Vindicator, Captain Moore sat in the command chair reviewing final checks. "All systems ready, Captain," reported his first officer. Moore nodded. "Open a channel to Admiral Kelly." The Admiral's face appeared on the main screen. She stood in mission control, surrounded by staff. "Admiral, the fleet is prepared to depart," Moore said formally. Kelly's expression was solemn. "Captain Moore, you carry the hopes of humanity with you. Remember your orders." "Yes, Admiral. Escort the diplomatic team safely to the Council, present our evidence, and secure recognition of Earth's right to defend itself." Kelly nodded. "And one more thing, Captain. This is not a revenge mission. This is not a war party." "But neither is it a surrender?" Moore finished. "Exactly. We go to claim our place among the stars with our heads held high." Kelly straightened. "Good luck, Captain. Bring them home safe." The communication ended, and Moore turned to his crew. "Prepare for departure. Set course for the Galactic Council headquarters." The fleet moved away from Earth, engines glowing against the darkness of space. The scarred hulls reflected the light of the sun as they accelerated, heading toward the stars. In her quarters aboard the diplomatic vessel, Ambassador Harris studied the latest translations of Council law. She had found something interesting. Section 12, Paragraph 3 of their Charter of Civilization guaranteed any spacefaring species the right to a fair hearing. She made notes on her tablet, planning arguments and responses. The Vrexians would be there, ready to oppose them. She needed to be prepared for anything. A soft chime sounded, and her door opened to reveal Commander Sullivan. "Ambassador, we're about to make our first jump. Captain Moore thought you might want to see it." Harris set down her tablet and followed Sullivan to the bridge. The crew worked quietly at their stations as Captain Moore welcomed her. "Ambassador, we're about to make history again," he said. "The first human ships to deliberately travel to alien territory." Harris looked at the view screen, which showed the other ships of the fleet in formation around them. Their hulls still bore the scars of past conflicts, some from the Rexian attack, others from Earth's own wars. Each mark told a story of survival. "The fleet looks formidable," she said. Moore smiled slightly. "That's the idea. We come in peace, but not in weakness." "Jump drives ready, Captain," called the navigation officer. Moore took a deep breath. "Take us to the stars, Lieutenant. Let's go make some new friends." "Or teach some lessons," Sullivan said under his breath. Harris watched as the stars on the screen began to stretch and blur. The ships accelerated to faster-than-light speed, carrying humanity's hopes, fears, and determination toward their uncertain reception at the Galactic Council. After 3 weeks of travel through the emptiness of space, Captain Moore stood on the bridge of the Vindicator, watching the main screen with tight shoulders. They had reached the edge of the Galactic Council's home system. "All ships, prepare to exit faster-than-light travel," he ordered into the fleet communication system. "Defensive systems on standby only, weapons powered down but ready." The human fleet slowed back to normal speed at the edge of a beautiful star system. A blue gas giant dominated the view, its swirling storms creating patterns of dark and light blue. But what caught everyone's attention was the massive ring structure orbiting the planet, the headquarters of the Galactic Council. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Greg Wilson at the navigation station. "It's enormous." The ring station stretched nearly 1,000 miles in diameter. Light sparkled across its surface, and hundreds of ships moved around it in careful patterns. Some were small and fast, others large and slow. All were different from human designs in ways both subtle and obvious. "Sensors detecting over 200 vessels of varying sizes," reported the science officer. "At least 40 different design types. Traffic appears highly organized." Moore nodded. "Ambassador Harris to the bridge, please." While they waited, Moore studied the alien ships. All of them looked pristine, their hulls smooth and unmarked. In contrast, the human vessels bore their battle scars openly, the transparent armor panels revealing damaged areas beneath. Evidence of past conflicts survived. Ambassador Harris arrived quickly, followed by her team. She had been preparing for this moment since they left Earth. "Captain," she said, her voice calm despite the tension everyone felt. "It seems we've arrived." Moore gestured to the screen. "Welcome to the Galactic Council, Ambassador. Quite a reception committee." As the human fleet approached, the organized movement of alien ships suddenly halted. The paths cleared around them as if no one wanted to get too close. The scarred, battle-damaged human ships with their weapons visibly ready, but powered down, created a stark image against the background of sleek alien vessels. "They're scanning us," the science officer reported. "Multiple scans from different sources." "Let them look," Moore said. "We have nothing to hide." Harris stepped forward. "Captain, I think it's time to announce ourselves." Moore nodded. "Communications. Open a channel to the station." The communications officer worked her controls. "Channel open, sir." Moore straightened his uniform and spoke clearly. "This is Captain Frank Moore of the Earth vessel Vindicator. We come representing humanity to address the Galactic Council regarding the unprovoked attack on our ship Defiant. We request docking permission and a formal hearing." The bridge fell silent as they waited for a response. Seconds stretched into minutes. "No answer, Captain," the communications officer finally said. Harris frowned. "Try again, but direct it specifically to whoever handles diplomatic arrivals." Before they could send another message, dozens of small platforms suddenly appeared around the human fleet. Each platform glowed with energy that their sensors identified as weapons. Defensive grid has activated, reported the tactical officer, tension in his voice. We're surrounded. Hold position, Moore ordered firmly. No defensive measures unless fired upon. A transmission finally came through. The main screen changed to show an alien face, feathered with a sharp beak and large, intense eyes. I am Council Security Chief Krexatar, the alien said in surprisingly good English. They must have studied the language from Earth's broadcasts. Humans, your presence is unexpected and unwelcome. The Vrexian delegation has already provided evidence of your species' violent nature. You will power down all systems and prepare to be boarded. Moore looked to Harris, who stepped forward. Now was the moment she had prepared for. With respect, Council Security Chief, she began, her voice steady and clear. We have come to present evidence contradicting the Vrexian account. The battle damage on our vessels is proof of their unprovoked attack. She took a breath and continued. We will not power down, nor will we be boarded. We request a fair hearing, as is the right of any spacefaring species according to your own Charter of Civilization, Section 12, Paragraph 3. The alien's feathers ruffled in what might have been surprise. You are familiar with our laws? We have studied your broadcast for decades, Harris replied. We came prepared to engage with your civilization according to your own principles of justice. Krextar's beak clicked several times. Wait, he finally said. The screen went blank. They're discussing what to do with us, commented Peter Jones. The diplomatic analyst Commander Sullivan moved closer to Moore. Captain, if they attack, we should target that defense grid first. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Commander, Moore replied quietly. The ambassador's approach may work. After 15 tense minutes, Krexatar reappeared on the screen. The inner chamber has considered your request. Limited docking permission is granted for your diplomatic vessel only. Your warships will remain at a designated position under surveillance. Harris nodded. Acceptable. Thank you, Security Chief. When the transmission ended, Moore turned to Harris. I don't like splitting our forces. We don't have a choice, Harris replied. This is progress. They could have simply fired on us. Moore reluctantly agreed. An hour later, the diplomatic shuttle prepared to leave the Vindicator. Moore walked with Harris to the shuttle bay. Ambassador, he said, handing her a small device that fit in her palm. If things go wrong, activate this. The fleet will extract you immediately. Harris looked at the emergency beacon and slipped it into her pocket. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst, Moore replied. Good luck. The diplomatic team boarded their shuttle, Harris, Jones, Miller, and Sullivan. As they departed the Vindicator, they saw the full human fleet from the outside. 5 warships in perfect formation, their scarred hulls a testimony to human resilience. The shuttle approached the massive ring station. Up close, it was even more impressive. The surface teemed with activity, landing pads, observation ports, and structures of every imaginable shape. Look at the architecture, Miller said with wonder. Every section seems designed for different species. Their shuttle was directed to a docking bay large enough to hold vessels 3 times their size. As they landed, they saw guards waiting, not just one species but 3 different kinds of aliens standing together. A mixed security team, Sullivan noted. Smart. No single species has full control. The team prepared to disembark. Harris straightened her diplomatic uniform and looked at her colleagues. Remember, we represent all of humanity here. Whatever happens, we remain calm and dignified. They stepped out of the shuttle into the artificial gravity of the station. The air smelled strange, clean but with unfamiliar undertones. The security team approached one tall, thin alien with 4 arms, one short, stocky being with thick, leathery skin, and one that moved on multiple tentacles instead of legs. Follow, said the 4-armed one in basic English. No deviations. As they walked through the grand corridors of the station, representatives from dozens of civilizations stopped to stare at the first humans many had ever seen. Some looked curious, others showed clear signs of hostility, even fear. They're afraid of us, whispered Miller. Good, replied Sullivan. Fear might earn us respect where reason fails. Jones studied everything with analytical eyes. Notice how they're keeping distance? The Vrexians must have painted us as dangerous, unpredictable savages. They arrived at a large doorway guarded by more mixed-species security teams. The doors were massive, carved with symbols representing different worlds. "The council chamber," Harris said softly. "This is it." The guards ushered them to wait in an antechamber. Through a window they could see the massive semicircular hall, beyond with tiered seating for representatives of all member species. At the center stood a group of reptilian aliens, the Vrexian delegation. "Our accusers," Harris said, studying them carefully. The doors began to open. Harris straightened her shoulders and took a deep breath. "For Earth," she said quietly. Her team nodded in agreement as they stepped forward to make humanity's case before the stars. The council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Harris and her team entered. Hundreds of alien eyes focused on the humans. The room was enormous, with curved walls rising at least 100 feet high. Different sections were designed for various species, some with water tanks, others with special atmospheric controls. All seats faced the central speaking area where the Vrexian delegation waited. Harris walked with steady steps to the human position, her team following closely. She could see the Vrexians watching her, their scaled faces impossible to read. Their leader was tall, with deep red scales and yellow eyes that never blinked. A deep tone sounded through the chamber. From an elevated platform, a crystalline figure rose. Unlike any life form the humans had ever seen, this being seemed made of living silicon, with light pulsing gently through its transparent body. "The Grand Counselor Zorath," Jones whispered to Harris. "According to our research, he has led the council for over 300 years. Zorath's voice resonated through the chamber, automatically translated into all languages, including English. "The council recognizes the representatives of Earth. You come before us with a grave accusation against the Vrexian Empire, a respected member of our community." The Vrexian leader stepped forward. "Respected Grand Counselor, why do we even allow these primitives to speak? They attacked our peaceful scouting vessels without provocation. They are clearly too violent to join civilized space." Harris kept her face calm, though anger burned inside her. She waited her turn to speak, as the council's rules required. Zorath raised a crystalline arm. "All who come to the council in peace have the right to be heard. Ambassador Harris of Earth may present her case." Harris stepped to the central platform and activated the small projector she had brought. A holographic image appeared above her. The Defiance approached to the meeting point, then the unprovoked Vrexian attack. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice steady and clear. "What you see is the complete, unaltered record from our ship's external cameras and data systems. We came seeking friendship, knowledge, and peaceful cooperation." The hologram showed the Defiant taking heavy damage, its shields failing. "We defended ourselves when attacked without provocation or warning," Harris continued. "That is not aggression, that is survival." The council chamber filled with murmurs as the aliens watched the destruction of half the Defiant's crew, then its desperate final counterattack. The Vrexian leader hissed loudly. "These recordings are fabricated. The humans attacked without warning. They are a dangerous primitive species that should be contained to their home system." He activated his own holographic display, showing a very different version of events. The Defiant firing first, the Vrexians defending themselves. Harris remained calm. "Our records are genuine. We would welcome any examination of their authenticity." Grand Counselor Zorath floated down from his platform, the crystalline being moved to the center of the chamber. "We have technology to verify the authenticity of such recordings. If the humans consent, we will examine their evidence with our most advanced systems." "We consent," Harris said immediately. "Our only wish is for the truth to be known." The Vrexian leader looked suddenly uncomfortable. "This is unnecessary. We are respected members of the council. Our word should be sufficient." Zorath's crystalline body shimmered slightly. "And yet, you seem reluctant to submit your evidence to the same scrutiny, Ambassador Vrexor." The council's technical specialists came forward, beings of various species with specialized knowledge. They took both sets of recordings for analysis. The chamber waited in tense silence. Harris and her team stood still while the Vrexian delegation whispered urgently among themselves. After 30 minutes, the specialists returned. Their leader, a small blue being with 6 eyes, approached Zorath. "Grand Counselor, we have completed our analysis. The human recordings show no signs of alteration or fabrication. They are genuine records of the events." The specialist hesitated before continuing. "The Vrexian records, however, show clear evidence of digital manipulation. Multiple sections have been removed and replaced." An uproar erupted through the chamber. The Vrexian delegation began shouting protests while other council members called for order. Zorath raised all 4 of his crystalline appendages, and silence gradually returned. "Ambassador Rexor," Zorath said, his tone now hard as the crystal of his body, "your delegation has presented falsified evidence to this council. This is a serious violation of our most sacred principles." The Vrexian leader's protests grew desperate. "These humans are a threat to all of us. They developed weapons capable of destroying our best ships in their first encounter with alien life. They must be contained before it's too late." Harris watched the Vrexians' growing panic with understanding. This wasn't just about first contact gone wrong. The Vrexians had genuinely feared what humanity might become. Zorath turned to address the entire council. "It appears we have been misled. The Vrexians acted in violation of our principles, attacking a new species without provocation and then falsifying evidence to conceal their crime." The council members began to vote, their decisions registered on the main display. The majority voted to censure the Vrexian Empire, requiring them to pay reparations to Earth and suspending their council voting rights temporarily. Several Vrexian diplomats were ordered to stand trial for their deception. When the formal proceedings concluded, Grand Counselor Zorath approached the human delegation privately. His crystalline body moved with surprising grace for something that looked so solid. "Your response to this attack was illuminating, Ambassador Harris," he said. "Many species would have launched a retaliatory war after such an incident. Instead, you sought justice through our institutions, despite having every reason to distrust them." Harris nodded. "Humanity has a long history of violence, Counselor. We've fought ourselves more than anyone else. But we've learned from those struggles that justice prevails more often than vengeance. Nevertheless," Zorath continued, studying the humans carefully, "the defensive capabilities your ships displayed against a technologically superior force have caused concern among some council members. Captain Moore, who had been permitted to join the diplomatic team after the evidence was verified, stepped forward. Our ships bear the scars of our first contact deliberately, Counselor, not as a threat but as a reminder." He looked the crystalline being directly in what might have been eyes. "We did not seek battle, but we survived it. We hope never to fight again, but we will always be prepared to defend ourselves." Zorath's surface shimmered in a pattern that the humans couldn't interpret. "Perhaps humanity will bring something valuable to our council after all. Not just your unique biology or technology, but your perspective." The crystal being made a gesture that seemed almost respectful. "You carry the memory of your conflicts openly, where many of our species hide the evidence of our historical violence." 2 weeks later, the repaired and restored USS Vindicator took up position near the council station. It became the first permanent human embassy to the Galactic Council. Moore had ordered that one section of the hull still bear a carefully preserved scar from the Vrexian attack, a reminder to all species that humanity came in peace but would not perish in silence. Captain Moore and Ambassador Harris stood on the observation deck, watching the diverse ships of 24 civilizations approach to establish formal diplomatic relations with Earth. "They still fear us," Moore noted, watching a Centaurian diplomatic vessel approach cautiously. Harris smiled. "They respect us. The fear will fade. Today our blood-stained ships brought us justice. Tomorrow, they'll bring us friendship." She looked out at the stars, now not just distant lights, but homes to people they would come to know. The day after that, perhaps they'll help us bring something this council has never truly had: What's that? Moore asked. Honest peace, Harris replied, not built on deception or domination, but on the understanding that every species deserves to survive, to defend itself, and to be heard. As the ships of the Galactic Council surrounded the scarred human vessels, for the first time since humanity reached the stars, they did so not in aggression, but in cautious welcome.